Hey everybody, it's the weekend. It's Labor Day weekend actually, so that'll give you an idea when this thing posts is how far I am behind. But so we got this guy all set up. We've buffed the welds and painted them up so that everything looks all nice and neat. I went ahead and threw the carrier in, the carrier bearings and the caps. These guys are torqued to 80 foot-pounds. This guy right here, just in case I didn't mention it earlier, it's 5/16. These are actually standard threads, and the threads in there, I want to say are, oh, good Lord, you know this, Mike. I think they're 5/16 threads. Course 5/16, 18. Does that sound right? I'll tell you, because I chased them because they were feeling kind of boogery, and I don't want that thing to be boogered up. So 5/16 by 18 pitch. So that's this guy. Can you get it? Wow. These kits pretty handy. This one is snap-on. I'm so smug. But you can get these. I'm sure they sell these things on Amazon or eBay under some off-brand. It's probably made at the exact same factory. I didn't say that. And they're great to have to just chase threads. They're made just to go back and clean up threads, and they do better, in my opinion, than taps and dies. And so that's what I did. I just chased that guy because it was boogering up. So now it goes in and out nice and smooth. I didn't want to mess with that with the car up in the air. I wasn't sure with the gas tank how it sits, how much room I'm going to have. So I figured if I can get that guy up in there beforehand. This guy's pretty light right now. Once the axles go in and the brake calipers and the rotors and the discs, all that stuff, this guy weighs probably about twice as much. Right now it's not too bad. I'm hoping that I have enough strength to lift this thing up and stick it in the back of the car the way it is right now. It doesn't feel too bad, and that's my plan. Top tip though, when you're doing this kind of stuff and you got your car up in the air in some sort of fashion, lucky enough to have a lift, I'm very blessed, I know, be careful, because you go ahead and smash this guy into the car, and then you got to figure out that you need at least an axle plus the studs width between your car and a wall if it's parked up. 'Cause I've seen people do this and they get themselves into a jam. So be sure you have, if you're, always be sure you have room to get axles in and out of your rear end while you're doing that, and that's what we're going to do. So we'll get that up there and just start reassembling this guy. Once it's in there, we'll get it on the perches, throw in the bearings, the sills, and get the pads and the U-bolts and all that stuff kind of moving along. So once the axles get in, then hopefully all we got to do is just slide them in, throw the brakes on, and we'll be good. Oh, this is heavy. Oh. Fuck you, pad. Oh. I'm back. My neck and my back. Yeah, we got this guy up here, and they have like holes, like a series of holes where this bolt right here goes through, and there's a hole in the pad. There's a little, like a nipple on the pad. There's a hole in this carrier. So what I do is locate it, and then I just push it all the way forward on either side. I don't know if that's right or wrong. Don't really care all that much because it worked last time, that's how we did this. And so I think that with reason, it should work just fine this time. So this guy's up here. You can already see, like, when I had it in here before, these the wheel hubs would be like almost out into the fender over here, like in context. So we're like way over here now, which looks to be much more in line with the front tires. So that's good. That's hopefully, you know, with all my meticulous measurement taking, we'll end up where we need to be. The good old jackass, the jackass way. We just kind of go, yeah, that looks like about 2.5 inches. Yes, we need to lop that 2.5 inches right out there. We're gonna throw it up on in there off the back. We're gonna zoom, zoom, zoom. No problem. I'll tell you what, that usually works. So, oh, here's a nice shot. You can't 3D print. You can't 3D print a jig. It'll never work. It could never work. Bam. Decam. All right, so we did finish up bolting up all the stuff to the axle. We got our axle caliper bracket things with the dust shields put on there, and you guys saw me put the bearings in and the dust shields. And I did weld a 16 bung on top here, since there's plenty of room up here to fill from the back. And that'll make filling a little easier. I'll just pop the cap off the front, fill until it pours out, and then cap them both up. Yeah, and the anti squealers, they're a little bit sitting like they're kind of on top of the weld there a bit, but they seem to be doing fine. And so one thing I did do is I went to throw the drive shaft. Can you guys see that? Yeah, the drive shaft up in there, and I couldn't put it in there. So then I double checked to make sure, you know, tried a couple different spline positions into the input shaft on the transmission, but it just wouldn't go. So what I did is I took the axle, I backed these guys out, and I pushed the axle all the way back. So I thought that I had pushed it all the way forward and did everything, but I must have had it back all the way. So I just loosened up the little shackles and on both sides, and just pushed this thing until it wouldn't go back anymore. It's kind of butted up on the little screw that sticks out now. Yeah, there. And then once I did that, I put the drive shaft in. It had plenty of room to do its drive shaft thingy. It's something you always want to make sure is you have a little bit of extra, you know, movement in their drive shaft. And yeah, got the exhaust back into place, and our brake lines, just waiting for our calipers, but they're waiting for our axles, which should be here, I would imagine, maybe tomorrow. Hopefully it'd be nice to see them tomorrow, if not the next day probably. And then all we gotta do is just smack the axles in, and I'm really excited. I think I've already showed you guys this, but we were just like way out here. So I mean, just imagine 2.5 inches out this way is where we were sitting in this wheel well. Now we're back in there, and I've kind of put the tire and just kind of mocked it up, and it's sitting in there. It looks a lot nicer. I did have to dig out my my other metal wheels that I bought and see once we get everything back together if I can fit those guys on with some spacers. I do have some SVE wheels that I bought for Mustang that I can run with spacers on the front. They're 17 on the front, but it's like a 4.5 inch wide, and the backer is 15 by 10, which is made to run on the Mustang, so it should work out well. It was, when I put it on before, it was sticking out about 1.5 inches, so it should be sucked right back in there where it needs to be, and we can get 275s on that, which will be pretty cool. And I've already rambled way too much this whole video, and that's it. So we're waiting on axles, everybody. Bum 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 bum. Do 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 do. the axles are in, and that went nicely. So I'm happy. It looks good. I'm not celebrating yet. The ultimate judgment is when you get your calipers on and the brakes and the calipers and the brake pads and all that lines up. That's going to be like the final, hey, they got it right deal. So we're not celebrating. We're not doing touchdown dances just yet, but it's looking pretty good. And we went ahead and put this guy together. I just did a thin bead of the ultra gray sealant, and what I do is a hand tight. We'll let the sealant gel up, and then tomorrow or real later on tonight, snug them all down hand tight. I use like a nice RTV. I have a gray RTV that I get in a tube that is like a caulk gun, and we'll put it on there. But what I did do is I have like these super duper magnets. You can get these off of like eBay or Amazon, but they are very, very strong. And there's a ridge on the bottom of your house right here where it's like a dip that goes down through here. So I stuck that magnet down there, and my idea is we'll just put this guy in drive and just let it do its thing for a while on the lift, maybe 20-30 minutes or whatever. Drain the fluid out, pop the cover off, pull the magnet out and check it, make sure that if I get all the little clippy bits out or whatever, hopefully they'll have collected on the magnet. These things move. There's a diesel guy that did like a clear plexiglass back thing on these. A really interesting video on the YouTubes, but from that video you can see these guys move a ton of fluid. I mean, this gear in essence is like a pump, and it just pushes that fluid through there, and hopefully that'll get everything moving around enough that we get any little metal bits that might be in there clicked on that magnet. The magnet on this guy's got a little magnet on the fill port too. I started to thread seal that and whatever, but I realized I kind of need it to see. There's a magnet on the back of that guy, and it does a pretty good job of collecting goop as well. So we're gonna go ahead and get the calipers and the brakes all bolted up, and back tightened down, fluid in, all that good stuff. We're not far yet. We're not out of the woods. We're not celebrating. I got horrible luck, but everything's looking pretty good so far. So yeah, yay.